Welcome to Permission to Shift, the show that helps you remove limits, transform fear, and get into a life you're excited to live. Today's guest is Chen Clarke, founder of Chen Clarke Hypnotherapy. Chen is a clinical hypnotherapist, rapid transformational therapist, NLP and mindset coach, and has over 25 years of experience working to help professionals release depression, anxiety, trauma, and addictions. Chen's goal is to reignite passion and purpose in everyone's lives, enabling them to experience peace in mind and body, ignite self-belief, create unshakable confidence, and build lasting happiness and success. Hey, Chen, it is awesome to have you here today. Thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so looking forward to our chat today.
I am too. For anyone out there who has never met you or had the pleasure of working with you, you are, I consider, just a phenomenal human being, and I love you to death, and I'm so happy that I got to meet you and work with you. But for anyone who doesn't know you, can you give them a little bit of information about what it is you do and what the biggest shift was that you made on the road to getting there?
Cool. Yeah, my name is Chen. I am a clinical hypnotherapist, a rapid transformational therapist, an NLP practitioner, and a mindset coach. So I predominantly work with people, professionals, male and female, to transform depression, anxiety, and trauma, complex PTSD, etc., to create peace and calm in the body, happiness, passion and purpose, to relight that fire basically in somebody's life. So it's been, I suppose, a culmination of a life's work for me. For me, you asked for about the biggest shift. I've had so many, I don't even really kind of know where to start with that. But I grew up in probably difficult circumstances. I was experiencing domestic violence as a child, and that level of trauma. And what that creates is a child who is walking on eggshells, a child who is on high alert, who is reading body language, who is hypersensitive to mood and posture and facial expressions, because you're always looking for danger. So I was normalized to a lot of anxiety in the body and a lot of fight or flight in the body. So it was normalized for me. So for years and years, I never even realized I had anxiety because it was my normal. So when I kind of I've had several businesses, and one of them was an interior design business. And I experienced bullying on the construction site by the owner of the property. And I used to kind of just freeze. But as a result of that, I came out of that and went into a bit of a depression. I find that depression and anxiety goes hand in hand. And that depression kind of really, I suppose, brought up a lot of stuff around trauma for me. And what's interesting is that when I kind of, because I had medication for it at the time, I gave up that business at the time, and started really focusing on personal development, really looking in. I trained in a lot of modalities, a lot of energy modalities back then, on alternative modalities. And then I went the more sciencey route and did a degree in psychology and trained with neuro-linguistic programming and hypnotherapy. But what I learned was that while we feel out of control and powerless sometimes with depression and anxiety, that when you understand how the mind works, and there are rules of the mind, but when we understand how it works, we get to be in charge. And it's getting to the root cause of our traumas, our issues, because I guess for me, it kind of shows up in later life, when we're maybe struggling with relationships, or we are struggling with sabotage on a daily basis and limiting beliefs, or imposter syndrome in the workplace. And what I've discovered is that, as children, we create beliefs about ourselves, because for the first 7 to 8 years, we are like sponges. We are learning how to be humans. We soak up all the information, all the habits, beliefs, and behaviors of the adults around us, be that our caregivers, our parents, but also the community, the schools, the teachers. So it's the culture. We pick up the culture. And we never question those beliefs. And it's, if things happen in childhood, and they don't have to be traumatic and they don't have to be dramatic. All it takes is for a child not to be accepted for who they are, not to be loved the way that they need to be loved. And they make that mean something. So it's never the event. It's never the events that we experience that traumatize us, but it's the beliefs we create about ourselves as a result of those events. And those beliefs tend to be, I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. If parents divorce, well, they wouldn't have left if I was good enough. It's my fault, because as children, we make it our fault. We take responsibility because we can't make our parents wrong.
And where does hypnotherapy play into all of this?
This is where I suppose the power of hypnotherapy is, and certainly with the rapid transformation therapy I do, is we go back into, if somebody is presenting to me with anxiety, for example, and we want to get to the root cause of that. We want to get to where that began, because if we can solve the root cause and get an understanding about it, we can collapse all the other behaviors. And we can get to the place where we can get control of the anxiety and it no longer becomes an issue. So with the rapid transformation therapy, we do what we call regression. So we go back to a place, an event, and a time where this anxiety began. And we'll be asking questions, because I'll have conversations with the subconscious mind, the emotional mind that records absolutely everything. And we go back to that time, and it might be something as simple as, I suppose, neglect or abandonment. And I don't mean full-on abandonment in terms of abuse, but it's just like maybe being the eldest child and having to be responsible for the younger ones, having to do for them and make for them, and never really having the love and attention that you deserve because it goes on the younger ones. And you might make that mean that, I'm responsible for everything and I have to make sure these things happen. And if I don't do it, nobody does it because mum is busy with this and dad is gone. So it's like we create these beliefs and behaviors around the understanding of a child, basically. So when we go back in, we're going back in with the understanding of an adult, and we're making sense of it with an adult's perspective. Would you expect, for instance, would you expect a 6-year-old to be getting the rest of the kids? Would you expect your own 6-year-old? And of course, the obvious answer is no. You blame them, or would you expect? No. You wouldn't expect a 6-year-old to be doing anything except playing, learning to be a human, getting into all sorts of trouble. But it was okay for them, but it wasn't okay for you. And it's about making it okay for you and having that self-compassion.
Does that not bring up a whole lot of anger in some of your clients?
It can do, but better out than in. And suppressed anger is what causes depression.
But where do you take them? So I see my childhood and I start reframing the story, which is what I'm hearing. So reframing the story, and then I start getting angry and making different stories about victimization. Does that not?
No, it doesn't really come up like that. It's because we're reviewing, we're not reliving the events. And it doesn't come up like that. Yes, do we have emotions that we need to express, and we have a process within the session for that, where you get an opportunity to express that anger. I would tend to work with clients over a period of time. So if there is recurring anger, we have a method and a process for expressing that in safe ways and journaling on it and really kind of getting to where that's coming from. And it's about releasing that in safe ways, in appropriate ways.
Talk to me about why people need to release
emotions. Yeah, because any emotions that are suppressed and not expressed are what causes the illnesses and the issues in our body, whether that be with depression, anxiety, or even physical medical issues, because we're suppressing who we are. We're not being ourselves. It's like we're not okay to be ourselves. So we're always on high alert, kind of, watching for dangers, or just kind of waiting for people to be judging us sometimes. Because the way some people are so socially anxious, it's like, what will people be saying? They're just so in their head about what everybody else is. They're watching me. What are they thinking about me? And the reality is everybody's in their own head doing the same. So nobody's actually looking at anybody else or judging anybody else. We're all on the inside,
We're all hot messes, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I know.
How fast does this work? Can I come to you one session, boom, I realize where I was in my childhood, I figure it out, I go home with a few exercises, all good?
I tend to work with people over a minimum of 3-month period. Now that's one hypnotherapy RTT session in the month and some coaching, because I create a personalized hypnosis audio, and we listen to that for 21 to 28 days, because that's the length of time it takes to create or recreate new beliefs, patterns, and behaviors. So that is all the kind of ways. For instance, if we go back to the anxiety example, it's if how you want to feel moving forward after the session. So you're going to want to feel peace and calm, have freedom, not worry about things, go about your life without kind of having to second guess or doubt yourself, or all of those things that are tied up in anxiety. And so I will create a hypnosis audio based on how you want to be after the session, and you listen to that once a day. The reason why I say a minimum of 3 months is because, we don't work on one thing in isolation. When we're working, say, with the anxiety, we're also working maybe with depression. We're also working with feelings of not being good enough. So it does tend to bring up other stuff. I find that, 3 months of hypnotherapy with, one issue a month, although we're working on several issues really, but it gives us an incredible foundation to really start kind of building the life that you want to create. And particularly in the case of people with anxiety and depression, they're in fight or flight mode all of the time. They're running huge amounts of cortisol. They don't have clarity of mind. They don't have the ability to think clearly or make good decisions. And they're not operating at their best. They're certainly not operating at the top of their game. So even if, and a lot of my clients are very high achieving, very driven, quite hard on themselves, A-type personalities, they achieve so much. But can you imagine how much more they achieve when they're actually operating at 100%? When they've got that clarity, when they've got the peace and calm in the body. Because with anxiety and depression, the goal is to heal the nervous system, the adrenal fatigue and all the problems that causes. And, to get to that place where it's quiet on the inside. And that for me was the big shift, was when I finally realized that I did and had been experiencing anxiety most of my life, because it didn't show up in the normal ways for me. I didn't worry about social things, or I didn't worry about, I didn't get the panic attacks, but I had that fight or flight situation going on in my body. But when that nervous system calmed down and quietened down, it was like, wow, I didn't realize how much noise was going on inside. And when that quietens down, it's like, wow.
I'd love to talk about that for a second, because the noise is huge. And a lot of people try meditation and simply they give it up because they're all kinds of reasons they give it up, right? But they don't do the mindfulness things that will help them calm their brains. They either get stuck, or they're so busy in their head, or so busy doing, or whatever the reason is they have. Could this help on that level, get them calm enough so they could introduce a new practice like that?
Well, absolutely. I think that's why I will always start with depression and anxiety and check for that with somebody I'm working with. Because when we get to that place where we have that, what I call the solid foundations, that peace and calm, that clarity, then we can really start kind of looking at maybe the sabotage or the people pleasing or the visibility issues or the not loving yourself enough, all of those. And they're every bit as important, but we can't even begin to look at those until we deal with the nervous system and get to a quiet place. But it allows us to really kind of get in control of the mind. You know, we get to be in charge of it. And I know it doesn't feel like that. I know we feel like things happen to us, or, you know, like anxiety happens to us and we can't really change it, but we can. We actually can.
Tell me more about self-sabotage, because self-sabotage sounds like something that really interferes in people's ability to make this process work for them.
Yeah, well, yeah. So we all experience self-sabotage. It's, you know, the things that we do. It's like, you know, whether we've decided we want to go on a diet or we want to get healthy, we want to get fit. It's like 2 days in, we've got this voice in our head going, it's raining out. Let's not go for the run today. You did so well yesterday. You're tired. You've had a long day at work. One little takeaway won't hurt, you know. So we've got that kind of voice in our head going saying, oh, you know, don't make any changes. It's nice and comfortable here. It's not going to be nice out there. It's going to be, you know, hard and unfamiliar. And we don't like that because we're human. We don't like change.
Yeah.
You know, we like things to be familiar. We like things to be comfortable. And there are parts of our brain that will actively sabotage us to keep us small, to keep us, you know, safe. And because our mind's job is to keep us alive, to keep us breathing, not to make us happy. That is not in the job description. As much as we would like it to be, you know, it's about keeping us safe. And, you know, if it can have kind of that negative mind talk, you know, that goes on all the time where we're doubting ourselves, and God, if people find out, you know, that I really don't know what I'm doing, I'm a complete fraud and an imposter, and they're going to find out, and then what, you know? And the reality is because for a lot of us, the core issues are, I don't feel good enough, I'm not lovable, and what I want is not available to me. And they're the kind of really, really core things that we all experience one way or another. So the mind might discover that, well, you know, in order to keep you safe, we need to keep you small, we need to keep you invisible. So you can't do well at interviews or, you know, move up through the ranks in your career, because then that would expose you to judgment or to, you know, you'd have to be on a higher level of performance, and that's pressure. And, you know, so it's doesn't make any logical sense the way the mind works in that way. It's just keeping us safe. So we will do the silly things like getting drunk the night before an interview so we're not, you know, or you know, or, you know, give up on the diet 3 days in, or, you know, talk ourselves out of the, you know, the new exercise routine. And certainly in relationships, it's a big thing as well, because I think probably relationships and running your own business are the two kind of stomping grounds for really massive personal development. You know, that will challenge who we are and how we feel about ourselves, and, you know, how we show up. So so we can be avoidant in relationships, we can be needy, and, you know, and push people away because we don't feel good enough, and if we reject them first, well, then they don't have the opportunity to reject us. So like it's a huge minefield, is sabotage. It's a whole, like, I mean, that's a whole subject on itself.
It is. And in your sessions though, how do you allow for that? Because that's going to come up. And so the hypnotherapy is not going to help them alone, or is it?
Well, that's the thing. We kind of decide together because we co-create the program. I do a bespoke program, so we co-create that and we decide what the initial session is going to be about, and I will facilitate that around. Now we do deal with what comes up because what comes up is relevant. But predominantly what comes up tends to be around, the root cause and the core issues around, for instance, the anxiety. I'm working with a woman at the moment, and she's had agoraphobia and panic attacks and anxiety for the last 40 years. Oof. And has been in traditional therapy, which has not worked for her for years and years. So the month before she worked with me, she had what she called clingy days. So that was where she can't be alone in the house. She has to be with her partner, either going with her partner or her partner stays with her. And so she had 26 clingy days that month before she worked with me. The first month she worked with me, she had one clingy day. And she had driven into town, which was an hour and a half each way, because that was part of the homework I had given her. It's like, well, you need to start getting back out there. And she did, so she had one clingy day. She had actually weaned herself off anxiety medication as well at the time, within 2 weeks, which I didn't have anything to do with, and she didn't tell me about until afterwards. So weaned herself off her medication, dropped from 26 clingy days to one clingy day, and had been out and about several times and had stayed in the house by herself. So you asked me how fast this happens. That's how fast this happens.
What would you say to people who are skeptical and say, wow, hypnosis doesn't actually work? People aren't hypnotized. They choose to pretend. What do you say to that?
Well, if that's your belief, I'm not going to be able to change that. But the results speak for themselves. We have a subconscious mind and we have a conscious mind, and the conscious mind is the logical mind. And it's, if logic could solve the problems we have, do you not think we would have solved them by now?
Well,
yeah. But we have this subconscious mind, which is the emotional mind, and it records everything that has ever happened, everything we see, everything we hear. So it has all the answers. The logical mind just does not have that.
Mm-hmm. And what we think has physiological implications, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I do have a little exercise if you're up for it. It'll take a couple of minutes.
I am always up for exercise.
Cool. Okay, so if I get you to close your eyes.
Okay.
And take a deep breath in and breathe out. So I want you to imagine that you're walking into your kitchen and you're walking up to your fridge. And I want you to notice what color it is. Is it white? Is it chrome? Is it black? Is it clad in wooden units? And as you reach your hand for the handle, I want you to notice, does it open to the left or does it open to the right? And as the door opens, you can feel a cool breeze on your face. And as you look into the fridge on the shelf, there's this big, juicy Sorrento lemon, not the little piddly little lemons that you get in the supermarket. This is an Italian sun-drenched lemon. And as you reach in and pick it up, and you can feel that bumpy texture of the skin. And as you squeeze it slightly, you can feel that lemon oil on your fingertips. And the smell of that lemon oil, that bitter, zesty lemon oil. And as you close the door behind you on the counter is a chopping board with a knife. And I want you to put the lemon down and chop it in half and notice that there's bursts of juice squirting everywhere from the knife. And a different smell erupts. It's a fresh lemon juice smell. And as you cut that half a lemon into a quarter, I want you to pick it up and bring it to your nose and smell it. And your nostrils are full of that fresh lemon smell, that zesty, sour, bitter lemon. And I want you to take a bite out of the flesh now. And it's cool on your lips. And all those little sacs of juice are bursting in your mouth, filling your mouth full of that fresh, bitter, sour lemon juice. And as you chew the flesh, your nostrils are full of that beautiful lemon smell. And your mouth is full of that juice, sour. And you can feel the saliva rushing in to deal with that lemon juice. So just open your eyes. So tell me, was the lemon real?
It was awful. It was that was terrible, actually. That was not okay.
So was the lemon real or not?
See, I knew you were going to ask me this question. And I just, like my mouth, like it's not the sweet juicy. It's like I feel the actual like muscles, like this is way too sour. I don't want this anywhere near me. Like those are the feelings in my mouth and the saliva. Yeah.
Did your mouth fill with saliva?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Probably very early on, even when you started smelling the lemon, because even the idea of the lemon. So it actually doesn't matter if the lemon is real or not. Your mind believes what you tell it. And that's what's powerful here, is we have an imaginary lemon that's creating a physical response in the body and an emotional response. And how powerful is that? An imaginary lemon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's how the mind responds. It responds as if it's real. So if you're spending a lot of your time telling yourself how crap you are, how terrible you are, how awful you are, what's that creating in your body?
Yeah, the program is running.
Yeah. You know, your mind acts to make it real, just like it acted to make that lemon real. So you had the physical responses, the emotional responses, the responses.
Chen?
You know?
Oh, sorry. Keep going. No, I want you to finish this thought. This is really good.
Because, you know, when you see how powerful the mind is, and if you learn how to harness it and make it work for you, you hack it for success, you use the rules of the mind to make it work for you, what would be possible?
Chen, for anyone who is listening to this and saying, I want to know what's possible for me. I suffer anxiety. I procrastinate. I'm scared of my own life. I feel depressed. Help me. How do they find you?
Well, I'm on social media, so you'll find me on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. I do have a free masterclass coming up on breaking the chains of anxiety, where I go into a little bit more depth about the rules of the mind and hints and tips for overcoming the symptoms of anxiety. And we talk about what's needed to deal with the root cause. So you can find me there. And I also have a gift for the listeners as well. I know. It's my private clients love this. It's called the Calm and Relaxed Hypnosis Audio. And if you listen to it every day for 21 to 28 days, it really starts to create that relaxation, that peace and calm in the body. People have reported that their sleep is improved, that they just feel, you know, more relaxed in general. They're not worrying as much. And yeah, so I'll give you the link. I can drop the link in there for that. So
thank you. That is ridiculously generous. Chen, it has been a delight talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing all of your wisdom and knowledge with us.
You're very welcome. I've enjoyed it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.